What's up, folks? Welcome back to the channel. So I've had numerous people request for me to cover the I series savings bonds. So I'm finally going to do a video on this. And as some of you know, I'm not really a huge bond fan, but in rising interest rate environments, typically bonds become more appealing. And right now, the Series I savings bonds are very appealing because they're paying a 9.62 rate of return, which for those of you keeping track at home is 1.62% higher than the current CPI or rate of inflation. So to break this down, I'm just going to pretty much go off of treasurydirect.gov. They've got a lot of really good information on this. And instead of just going here yourself, you've got me to kind of narrate and read along to you and interpret this information, because not everybody will be able to go to this site and just understand all of it. But basically, so the Series I savings bonds rates right now, it's 9.62%. You can buy it at this rate through October 2022. And some key facts. So the rate is semi-annual with bonds. Now, bonds work a little bit opposite of stocks. Bonds are actually, I won't get into all the details of it, but when the concept of bonds are taught, like in a finance course, they're sold like at a discount rate. Like the face value is, the face value is like the rate that it ends up maturing to, but you actually buy it at a discount. So like I said, I'm not a huge bond guy, but I'm going to cover this as best as I can for folks that wanted to see this. So the limit on these, and these are very appealing, obviously, because of inflation and because of what the stock market's doing. The stock market's not paying anywhere near what it has been in the prior years. In fact, the stock market's lost up to 20 and 30% in some cases. And we're definitely in a bear market. So that's why bonds become more appealing. Now, the limit on these, you can purchase up to $10,000 worth of electronic I bonds each calendar year. But it's better than that because there are two different distinctions. There are paper bonds and electronic bonds. So the combined total of the two is $15,000. You can purchase $5,000 in paper bonds and $10,000 in electronic bonds. So let's just go through here let's just follow kind of the structure of this site. So if you buy right now in this 6-month period, which was just officially announced May 1st, I believe, the rate right now for the I bond is 9.62%. And I'm going to show you in this video how this rate is calculated, because bonds are computed semi-annually. So this applies for the first 6 months that you own the bond. How do the bonds earn interest? Mostly from the first day of the month in the issue date. The interest accrues until the bond reaches 30 years, or you cash the bond, whichever comes first. Again, compounded semi-annually. Every 6 months from the bond's issue date, interest the bond earned in the 6 previous months is added to the bond's principal value, creating a new principal value. Interest is then earned on the new principal. You can cash the bond after 12 months. However, if you cash the bond before it's 5 years old, you lose the last 3 months of interest. If you use Treasury Direct or the savings bond calculator to find the value of a bond less than 5 years old, the value displayed reflects the 3-month penalty, which is the amount of the penalty that's been subtracted already. So there's a fixed rate and an inflation rate. The fixed rate never changes. And these rates are announced every 6 months on the first business day. So not May 1st, like I said a minute ago, but the first business day of May, which may have been May 1st. Let me look. Want to be accurate here. Yeah, May 1st was a Sunday. So May 2nd was the first business day. So 1 day off. So the fixed rate then applies to all I bonds used during the next 6 months. The fixed rate is an annual rate, whereas the other component is semi-annual. The inflation rate can and usually does change every 6 months, as we've seen in the last 6 months. We've hit 40-year highs, 40 with a 0. So the inflation rate is set every 6 months on the first business day of May and the first business day of November, based on changes in the non-seasonally adjusted CPI, Consumer Price Index, for all items, including food and energy. The change is applied to your bond every 6 months from the bond's issue date. The dates for these changes might not be May 1st and November 1st. So combining the two rates, this is where we're going to have some fun here and do some math. To get the actual rate of interest, sometimes referred to as the composite or earnings rate, we combine the fixed rate and the inflation rate using the equation in the example below. The combined rate will never be less than 0. However, the combined rate can be lower than the fixed rate if the inflation rate is negative, because we have deflation, which I don't think we ever see that. We just may see very, very low inflation. The natural rate of inflation is normally 2% a year. As I've argued in prior videos, it's cyclically higher than that if you look back 100 years of Fed data. And in this situation, which doesn't happen because there's deflation, not inflation, it can offset some of the fixed rate. That's when bonds really become unappealing, if there's actual deflation. So like the last 12 years, you didn't really hear a lot about bonds. Bonds were not very appealing at all because interest rates were at 0, basically. If the inflation rate is so negative that it would pull the combined rate below 0, we don't let that happen. We stop at 0. So that's good to know for treasurydirect.gov. Here's an example. The composite rate for I-bonds issued from May 2022 through October 2022 being 9.62%. Fixed rate shows 0%. Semi-annual inflation rate is 4.81%, which that's 6 months out of the year. So that's basically divided by 2. Composite rate is the fixed rate, which is 0, plus 2 times the semi-annual inflation rate. And not everybody may get this, but 4.81% is annotated here as 0.0481, if you remember all your decimal places and all that from grade school math. And here, so add the fixed rate times the semi-annual inflation rate. And as you know, when you times something by 0, you get 0. So basically, the rate, to simplify it, you could just take 2 times 4.81 to get 9.62. Composite rate, 9.62%. Now, this could very, very well go up as the CPI keeps moving up. So when we get to October, this 9.62% could be even higher. But even at 9.62, this is a pretty decent, stable investment, I would say. Certainly beats CDs. And if you can do 10,000 or 15,000 of this a year, might be something decent to consider if you have that kind of money. And if you're losing money in the stock market, this may be a stable alternative for the time being. Interest rates will not always rise. Like I've said, we could start to see cuts as soon as the end of this year at the rate things are going. Worst case scenario, I would say within the next year or two, the Fed will go back to an easing policy, meaning they start to cut rates again. So this won't last forever, but you might as well, if you're going to do this, get in while the getting is good. And here are the dates that bond rates change. If your bond was issued in January, these are your dates, February, March, and so on and so forth. So what have rates been in the past? You can go to the rate chart to see this, to get an idea, because we like to look at past data to get an idea of the future, even though past data may not necessarily be indicative of the future. Well, let's zoom in here. So let's see. Wow, look at that, 10.14% in this rate table. So they've been steadily increasing. See, going back to last May of 2021, they weren't all that appealing. May 2020, they were like nothing. They were probably paying less than the true inflation rate at that point. So if they were issued, it looks like the peak rate, if your bonds were issued here, you could have got 10.14. There's a 9.93% here, but I think there's a good chance this could go above 10% again. So basically, look at this here. Oh, these are for bonds that were bought back in the year 2000. I think at one point I had some bonds like that my grandparents got me for school, and I cashed them out back when rates were paying, back when you could get like 5%. So that paid a decent premium, but we haven't seen those rates in a while, but now we're starting to see above those rates. So this is the rate table here. Let's see how far back this goes. This goes all the way, and it goes to 08, 07, goes all the way back to 1998. So let's see some historical data here just for fun. What's more fun than looking at data that's 24 years old? So rates in the late 90s to early 2000s were in the 4 to 7% range. And then this is always fun to look at because this is indicative of how the economy was doing, what the Fed was doing with interest rates at that point. So we should see them drop. See, like here's a 0% one. What year was this? Oh, May of 09. That's after the great recession. 0% for that whole time. And then we see it steadily start to come down. And it stayed low for a while, which really the low rates, in my opinion, propped up the market for so long. Here's another set of zeros. This was May 2015. I think the Fed might have, well, they started raising interest rates in 2015, I remember, after years of not. So that gives you a decent idea of historical data. Now let's go back here. Individuals can own ibonds if you have a social security number, meet any of these criteria: US citizen, US resident, civilian employee. And then children under 18, if they meet one of the conditions for individuals, I guess relatives can buy them. And then trust, estate, corporation, partnership, some other entities, criteria there. And so important here, like I mentioned, you can own up to 10,000 per year in electronic form through treasurydirect.gov, and you can own 5,000 in paper bonds, so 15,000 per year. And they can be in any penny's value. So like it says $50.23 here. And there's the limits I just mentioned, 10 and 5,000. You can buy them as gifts. Let's see what else I had up here. Oh, that was that calculator. Let me X that out. Let's see, I think I covered everything there. There was a page for frequently asked questions. Well, let's just do this here. Let's just do a quick Google search. Let's help out our parent company, Google, a little bit. Let's see, I series, savings, bonds, rate prediction, just for fun. June 22 ibonds purchase return, $100 into 104.81 in just 6 months. Easy math, 4.81%. So then in another 6 months at this rate, what's that result? 109.62, right? Easy math. After 6 months, you'll get the new 6-month rate. Your money will grow by that new rate. So it's not giving us a projection, but in my opinion, I think this could keep going higher, at least for the next year maximum. And then after that, once the Fed starts cutting rates again, these won't be as appealing. But in this environment, these are appealing right now, which is why I've had so many requests to cover this. Hope you all enjoyed that. Bonds are not my forte, but this is the first bond video I've ever done. So if you like that, please give that a thumbs up, like, comment, and subscribe. And take care. Have a good rest of your day.